Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 1-800-GAMBLER Community United National Alliance podcast. I am so very glad to see that you are here with me. My name is Luis Del Orbe, and I am the host of this podcast. Today, we're going to be tackling a subject that has come up on many conversations that we have had with our audience. And we're talking about the hidden dangers of unregulated gambling sites. Look, the 1-800-GAMBLER, our community, we're not for, nor we're against gambling. Okay, what we're here for is for individuals who may fall within a problem gambling area and find themselves struggling along with their family members because gambling is not a risk-free activity. However, when a person chooses to engage in this form of entertainment, and you know what? Like Michael Jordan once said, gambling itself is not bad. As long as we maintain it within the platform that it is, right? It is a form of entertainment. So for those individuals who do decide to make an educated decision, who know the odds of what is happening, for those individuals, we ask that if you're going to engage in gambling, do so in a responsible manner. Not just that, we want to make sure that if you do decide to engage in gambling, if you are of age to engage in gambling, please do so in a regulated platform. So in dealing with online platforms that offer gambling, you got to remember a lot of these unregulated sites, or all these unregulated sites, are not licensed. They're not licensed from any gaming authority. There are no oversights to these gambling platforms, and you are putting yourself at risk. Those individuals who decide to use these platforms to engage in gambling, you're very much putting yourself at risk. These platforms, they operate outside of the regulations that the regulated platform usually function in. Okay. The gambling industry. I have come to know that, and like I said, we're not for nor way against gambling, right? We even partner up with the gambling industry in many ways. So we want to make sure that, that you engage in this form of entertainment in a safe way. We want to make sure that these platforms, they have certain safeguards. When it comes to these unregulated platforms, with most of them usually, they're going to be found in the dark web. Okay, these platforms are not, they don't follow no regulations, not federal, not state, or any tribal government regulations. And these regulations, the reason why they're there is to protect the consumer. So gambling, as we know it, is not a risk-free activity. However, if you choose to engage in gambling in one of these unregulated platforms, it can get bad for the person. And we're going to talk about, how bad it can get and the dangers of engaging in these platforms. These platforms, they offer betting, casino game, sports betting. Many of them, they may invite individuals to private games. Okay, but you gotta understand, with no oversight, we don't know what we're subjecting ourselves to when we utilize these platforms. Okay, there is no authority. There are no regulators who are really monitoring these sites. Okay, because most of them are just functioning illegally. And here's the whole thing about some of these sites. A lot of them, they're up this month and they're down the next. Okay, so why does this matter? Well, let's start from the beginning. First, as I mentioned before, they're not licensed. They lack the license certificates that those who are regulated earn as a way of showing the states and the federal and even the tribal government that they exercise certain techniques, right? That they have certain protocols. Unlike the licensed site who display those licenses that they will have, these do not. These unregulated sites, they operate without license and they're not recognized by any agency. For instance, in Nevada, you have the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Okay? They have regulations that they have to follow. In New Jersey, the New Jersey have the Division of Gaming Enforcement, or even the tribal governments. They have certain requirements that these sites have to have, certain requirements that they must practice, that they must adhere to. Second, they operate outside the law. Most are actually hosted, outside the United States, in foreign countries. So a lot of them are not going to be subject to any penalties or any oversight by any government agencies. A lot of these things operate out of somebody's basement or somewhere where they're not able to be tracked. Third, as I said, they lack the oversight. Okay, there's no one coming in to audit them. For instance, in our organization, we are subject to being audited. They can't do that in these sites. So we do have to be careful. A lot of these games are rigged. A lot of them, they manipulate the result. Many don't even pay you when you win. There's some payout, but for the most part, a lot of people do not get paid when they win on these sites. They raked in money, and when you have a lot of people winning, they'll shut down. They'll leave. There is no guarantee for your safety. And of course, there is no fair play. Okay, you're subjecting yourself to fraud, to identity theft, because the information that you use, your information, can be copied, and it can be used against you. It can be mishandled. So you're basically opening yourself up to scams. Okay, unregulated gambling sites are, we call it sometimes, unlicensed street vendors. They may be selling some stuff that, they may be good, but who knows how they're cooking it, right? Who knows what sort of health violation could have happened while the food was being prepared. Same thing with these sites. Your money, your personal information, might be duplicated or used in areas that you may not want to be used. So we just must be careful. We got to be aware. And even with all this danger that we see, people engage in these unregulated sites. And sometimes people ask, but why? When you know that, you're being subjected to such dangers, why would you still utilize this site? The American Gaming Association, they do these reports, and this information that I have here, I believe it was from 2022. This from the 2022 report. Americans bet more than $510.9 billion a year with illegal operators. That's a lot of money. You have I believe about over 5,000. You have over 5,000 regulated sites globally, right? That are regulated. 5,000, over 5,000. But unregulated, it's probably about 3 times that amount. There's really, it's hard to be able to find out exactly how many sites, unregulated sites, are up on the dark web, because they go up and they come down, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. So it's hard to keep track of them. But we know that there are over at least 15,000 of these sites. So we really, really have to be careful of how we are being, or how we're being subjected or subjecting ourselves to these kind of dangers when we utilize the sites. It is reported that American wager about 63.8 billion on illegal bookies. Listen, it's not funny, but it's dangerous. It's just very dangerous. We have a story, and I'm gonna say a story of an individual that I know of who gambled on an unregulated site, and they borrowed some money. Okay, I use say they because it's more than one. What they believed was that, I'll pay this in time. I'll set up some sort of payment. You know, I might not have the money now, but I'm pretty sure that they'll take something. These unregulated sites operate on a different level. So they borrowed some money and they were not able to pay. Well, guess what? Somebody showed up at the door. They were threatened and they were coerced into giving up whatever money they could from what they owe. And the interest was ridiculous. So just because you think you engage one of these unregulated sites, that they may be in some foreign land, it does not mean that you're safe. They have your information. They'll track you. So one of the things that we ask is for you to be really, really careful. You got to remember, at the end of the day, only you can protect yourself. So how can you protect yourself when it comes to this area, when it comes to these sites? First of all, always use licensed and regulated sites. Avoid these unregulated sites. Avoid going on the dark web. Avoid looking for these sites that you believe that you're going to be able to increase your income in. Because if they don't have a license, if they don't have if they don't follow some sort of regulations, you're putting yourself at risk. Check for license information on the platform. Once you're on the platform, those things are usually displayed. There's some sort of license number, some sort of certificate. Not all of them, do so in a uniform manner. But, look for it. Make sure it's there. And be cautious of sites that are vague about ownership. If you don't really know where they're coming from, if they really don't have a name brand, please don't use them. Okay? And avoid going on the dark web. Okay? Or, or those things that require those payment methods that are outside the ordinary. We usually know how these things are, how you're able to pay. A lot of these sites, they want to use cryptocurrency. They want you to use your fiat money, your cash, either out of a credit card or out of a bank account. And they want you to deposit a certain amount of money and then get cryptocurrency. This way you can gamble with that, because it's really, for a lot of these sites, you can't follow the trail of money. Okay? If you see that the payment method is not what you normally would find, don't do it. Don't put your information in there. And be very, very cautious about these too good to be true offers. If it's too good to be true in this area, maybe it's not good for you. So leave that stuff alone. Be aware. Yourself, right? Be aware of your comfort level when it comes to play. Are you comfortable with your level of play? Okay? And if you're not, make sure that you're aware of the signs of problem gambling. Maybe do a self-assessment, in which you ask yourself, okay, how's my finances? How much money did I spend sitting at this game, or how much money have I spent in the week or the month? Evaluate that. And if you believe that you may have an issue, or if you know someone who may have an issue, give us a call. Seek help. Even if you don't call the 1-800-GAMBLER helpline, go somewhere to get help. But give us a call. 1-800-GAMBLER, we're here to help. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Give us a call. There are certain things that you can practice to try to avoid a situation like this. There's certain prevention strategies that we can deal with. One, and these are part of the responsible gambling, responsible gaming techniques or practices that you can practice while you're gambling. Set strict limits on your time and the money you spend gambling, and the time you spend gambling. Whatever money you're going to gamble, set that ahead of time. Okay, $100, 20, whatever it is. And remember, make sure it's money that you can afford to lose. Okay? Because the likelihood is that you're going to lose that. Gambling is set up for you to may win in the short term. But the longer that you engage in gambling, the more likely that you will lose. Okay? Avoid gambling when you're feeling stressed. When you're going through any sort of emotion, when you're in any emotional state of mind, or trying to escape a situation where you're frustrated, you're feeling frustrated, you don't want to be here anymore, back off, relax, take your time. Do not gamble during those situations. Because if you're feeling that way, you're not going to be able to adhere or keep yourself strictly on the limits that you have set for yourself. Listen, recognize the early sign. And if you see that there's something that may be happening, look for support. Sometimes we gamble out of boredom. We have nothing to do. Listen, give yourself a list. Have an active list of what you want to do. I love reading. Engage in reading. Trust me, reading is essential. Go for a walk, go for a drive. Have a conversation with someone you trust. Let them know what's going on with you. And you always want to maintain an open communication with family. Listen, they may have information that you don't. So educate yourself. Educate yourself on everything that deals with gambling. Because if you engage in it, you at least want to know information will be educated on it. So make sure that you have the line of communication with someone you trust and someone who knows of your financial situation. Having that set of eyes outside of you is very helpful. Okay? There are many treatment options. If you decide that, you know what, I may have developed a problem. If you call 1-800-GAMBLER, we have a list of providers who are specifically trained. They may have licenses in areas of therapy, whether it's family therapy, individuals dealing with substance use disorder. But they're also trained for gambling. Give us a call. We will set you on the right track. We will give you referrals to places to individuals that you may go out and seek help. Or we may give you information on how to attend a support meeting. Gamblers Anonymous, maybe alcohol is also an issue in there. So we have AA, dealing with Narcotics Anonymous as well, if you're dealing with a substance use issue. 93% of gamblers, of individuals who may have a gambling problem, have some sort of co-occurring situation going on, whether it's alcohol, drug use, or another form of addiction. If gambling had a close related cousin, it'll be alcohol. So be aware of these things. Make sure that you know your financial standing. Do not gamble if you want to supplement your income. That can really hurt you. And just know that if you're someone you know is struggling, call us. If you're someone you know is struggling with gambling, give us a call. We're here to help. Okay. Early intervention when it comes to problem gambling can make a big difference. Please keep in mind that gambling has the highest suicide rate over any other addiction. People fall into desperate situations, and desperate situation, call sometimes for desperate measures. And there are many who really subject themselves to thoughts of suicide. Suicide ideology is very much a part of problem gambling. Before that happens, give us a call. We're here to provide support, treatment, and hope. Thank you for your time. We most appreciate you being here with us, and we hope to see you going forward down the line. And remember, gamble, if you choose to gamble, do so in a responsible manner. Do so in a way that is not going to harm you or your family. Just avoid unregulated gambling sites. If you're going to engage in gambling, do so in a site that's regulated, that's licensed. You know, that they're practicing certain techniques that is to keep you safe. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.